Call this Allendale County Special Call Meeting to order. Councilman Robinson, will you do the invitation?
Yes. Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we beseech Thee as we gather this evening, asking for Thy continued guidance with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we partake in the governance of our beloved county. These and all blessings we ask in Thy holy and most merciful name we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. I'd like to, Chairman Goodson is out, Gooding is out tonight. He had a family medical emergency. He's fine, but if you would keep Councilman Rick Gooden and his family in your prayers. I guess we need to change the agenda to show that I am chairman instead of Rick tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I amend the agenda and have you presiding instead of Council Chairperson Gideon.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays have the same right. So carried. Get an approval of the September 1st special call meeting for the budget workshop. That was held on September 1st at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Get a second?
I wasn't here, but I'm going to second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody out to our budget workshop, I guess, our second reading. Do we have any public comments?
I have something I want to say about the how this workshop was done, is being done. I sent an email out, and I was reading my email since no one responded to it, and I said, "Good morning, Mr. Goodson." And I sent it to all council members. You sent it out a proposed budget, but my question to you is, how much money do we have as of Tuesday, August the 31st, 2021? We need to receive a detailed expenditure report as of August 31st, 2021. To me, this county is being operated on autopilot. I have not seen or received any documentations that stated how much money the county have to operate on or has spent as of August 31st, 2021. In June 21st, Mr. Goodson told us that he stated that we would be getting detailed report every month from the Treasurer's Office. It is Friday, September the 3rd. Now it's Friday, September the 3rd, 2021, and I have not received any report from Mr. Goodson, from accounts payable, or the general funds. Where do we stand? That's what I would like to know tonight. Before we get started, I would like to know where we stand. We cannot do a budget because we have money that came from the CARE Act fund. That's not in the budget. I don't know how much we got, don't know how much we spent. We have a American Rescue Fund funds money, don't know how much we got, don't know how much we spent. And in the past, we used to have committee meetings where all council members can come if want to come. Even though you have a committee, the committee do not make a decision. It brings it back before council and we discuss. Now, I don't know why we're doing it this way. I don't know, because it's never been done this way before. And all of a sudden, it's just committee members doing it. So I would like to know, as I send out the email, how much money do we have on hand? You can't balance the budget without knowing what you got, and we need to know.
Understand.
You're cutting a lot, but we don't know what money we got. Now maybe the committee know, but maybe y'all want to share with us what y'all know that we don't know. Because it don't look like we got anything, but we're cutting it. And it's a big cut you're making here.
I understand your concern, Ms. Taylor, with all due respect. You hadn't known how much money you've had in a long time.
But that's not the point.
Or received financial statements.
But we said before it was Ms. Gerzel was not giving us any reports.
I understand.
Ms. Gerzier no longer here. Now we got Ms. Alice Kirkland. We still should have some figures.
Yeah,
We don't even have them. So what we did in the past, we try to move forward. We're not looking backwards.
understand.
So I'm saying, we had 45 accounts. We don't know what funds, we just don't know what the funds is. Who's on the committee? Who knows? We got to share it with everybody. And I think that we all don't know. Maybe some of y'all know, but I don't know.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Goodson could share some information if you'd like.
Well, I'd like to know where we stand with money, because I mean, you took money out of capital reserve, you ain't put nothing back, we get money coming in this county, we don't know where it's going, how it's being spent. We need to know.
Vice Chairman Connolly, would you like me to address?
Yes, sir, please.
Chairperson Taylor. Chairperson Taylor, no money has been removed from the capital reserve account because it takes county council to vote to move money from that to the general account. As far as all the checking accounts, Ms. Kirkland, the treasurer, the only accounts that were in the treasurer's office was the general account and the capital account. I had to send an email out and I had to go to the bank to get them to send all the statements, whether it be the sheriff's department, the clerk of court's office, the delinquent tax office, the probate judge office. All these bank accounts were opened by individual head of departments or elected officials, and they've been that way for a while. She is in the process of gathering all that information. In respect to the budget, you're taking into account what you got coming in and what you got going out. And yes, once this budget is passed and this input into our system, I will produce some financial statements, but you can't put the cart before the horse when it comes to things are not going to turn around overnight. And I'm working very hard with the treasurer and our finance director to get statements so you can see your bank balances, but that will be on a balance sheet. What I proposed to council at the workshop was budget numbers that had been passed by council for 7+ years. And what I did was got with the treasurer's office and got what income we brought in last year. And then I went through every department, as I did in the budget workshop last week, the difference between what has been being in the budget and what we actually spent. I went through every line item and evaluated that over the last 2 years. So to answer your question, yes, council will start getting detailed reports. It just takes a little time to get all that information together, and starting with the budget being passed so I can get that in the system.
We can't operate off of previous years, but that was the problem we had before. We can't do it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. is
I know what he's
trying to get
saying.
the numbers.
I know what he's saying, but something has to change. So some figures should be able to tell us something, not just pick up last year, year before last. You got new guys on the board. Me, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson, Carl Gooden, and I are the oldest members. The people who doing the budget are the 2 new members. Y'all didn't even discuss with us what should or shouldn't be, or give us any information what's going on. Well, we probably can enlighten on a lot of stuff that he's doing. And by not knowing, you can't pass a budget this way. It made it really making us look bad. You can't cut all these expenses and expect to operate a county on less money based on the previous budget when we're operating in the past. You cannot do that. You got to have some figures, and I know you got.
Did we cut any? I mean, mostly what it appears as cuts were actually because there were false numbers for years past.
You still got them.
And we're using true numbers today.
How do we know the
He's
numbers
going
true?
by a 2-year average of what was spent on each line item and trying to come up with an educated guess on what we are truly spending, not just some random numbers.
And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Conley, but you being the new kid on the block, and I'm not disrespecting that you don't know, because I'm sure you know about numbers. That's not the way you do it. You got to talk to us as a full council. We make a decision. And based on what you just saying, you can't go and operate off for 2 years and say, what we had back then, we had more back then. We did pull money out of the capital reserve. We did put it back. I just think we operate on autopilot, and we should have some figures.
I would like to say that when I took a look at the budget and saw the cuts, you know, my concerns were more or less why. And hopefully tonight we can find out exactly why they cut. And Matt, I heard you say that the numbers this year are based on true numbers over a 2-year period, which is good. When you look at it overall, when I look at the revenue versus the expenditures, you know, we're hitting where we should be. It's probably the first time that I've seen a budget where our revenue equal the expenditure, which that's a balanced budget for all practical purpose.
Mr. Robinson, with respect, you can pad numbers. You can make it look that way. But the grants, the funds we get for grants not in here either now. You know, some money is funded by grants, so that's not even in here. There's a lot of missing information that's not in the budget.
Well,
that we need to
I
know.
think based on the overall appearance of this budget, it's probably one of the better budget I've seen.
But you
in
see how
6-7
much they
years.
cut?
Yeah.
In services, not, let's just use the EMS for the 911, I mean, the emergency ambulance.
And I think
We want to
that's
save
the
lives.
purpose of the workshop is, you know, we can find a happy medium that we all can agree on.
Well,
You know, cuts are, one thing about cuts, when you do a proposed budget, collectively, if the numbers don't look right, then council come together and we try to find a happy medium that we can live by and certainly provide the same amount of service.
Mr. Robinson, you can also call it a budget workshop versus a second reading. It's not a workshop. There's a difference between a workshop and passing the budget.
Well, I think this could be called a combination of the two, where we can actually hash out what needs to be hashed out. And I think we need to be very specific on what we want to take a second look at. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I request information I'm not even getting, so I got some problems. I want figures. I can't see, it's gotta be in black and white for me.
Okay.
I cannot see us cutting all these services, sheriff department, the ambulance service, EMS, all these departments. I can't see us cutting them when we need the services. We need to be adding money.
Well, I think we may not be in a position to add money, but I think when it comes to EMS, and based on what they've been doing over the last 18 months, you know, I too feel we need to take a second look at that because that's a vital part of our service. And they have been doing what's needed to be done in this COVID climate. And not only here in this county, but, you know, adjacent counties. So that certainly need to be looked at. But here again, I feel very strongly we can have a workshop and we can still have a second reading.
Mr. Ferguson, do you want to address anything about the sheriff's budget, and EMS?
Thank you, Vice Chairman Gooding. I've worked on numerous budgets during my time, and I'm not new to this, and I appreciate comments. But I spent a lot of time with Ms. Kirkland in the Treasurer's office getting figures that I could not get last year for whatever reason. I went through each department. If they did not spend a line item, I sat here and went through it last week because Vice Chairman Conley asked me to go through every department, and I went through why there was a difference. If you're just mainly looking at the Sheriff's Department budget 2021 versus what I proposed, you're looking at a budget that's been in place for 7+ years. I'm reflecting a budget of what it takes to run the county. And that's where these figures are coming from.
Well, that's just one of them. EMS also lack of workers that are being overworked. I mean, there's a lot of departments. I just throw it out, the sheriff department. I don't want to go with EMS and the rest of them now. But there's other areas that you pull from, that people are now overworked, and you don't have enough help, and you're cutting their budget. You can't do it. They need workers.
And that's up to council, where you're gonna find, what do you want me to cut to bring in?
I mean, I think we certainly all can agree that we need EMS workers and sheriff. You
Exactly.
know, we need what's adequate for our county. I think in what you were thinking was, you know, what we actually been spending was what you based, you know, what we proposed as being the budget. And it's all proposed. I mean, if we need changes, I think we're definitely.
Man, can we go, department, line item, not line
Yes, sir.
item, but department by department,
Sure.
okay? And page 1, I think that speaks for itself in terms of the revenue. I notice clerk and magistrate, that's a given, no changes there. And the miscellaneous, we're looking at,
What's the number you're looking at?
Number 1 page.
yeah, I'm on, number 1, no changes.
We're on page 2 now.
Now we're on page 2.
Miscellaneous revenue.
Right. Clerk and magistrate, no change. The miscellaneous, if you go down, those numbers, total miscellaneous, that's 134,000.
Well, that's revenue cuts, right?
Yeah.
And again, that was based on numbers. You got,
And I would like to add an update to that. If you notice, there's 2 line items for a forfeit land commission for $40,000. And again, for the forfeit land commission for 30, that's a total of $70,000. I spoke to the clerk of court, Elaine Sapp, this afternoon. She said those numbers were incorrect. They do not bring in $70,000 a year in the forfeit land commission. So that's $70,000 that the county has been saying it's getting that it has not gotten. So I did go through every line item, income, revenue, and expense. In order to increase anything, you're gonna have to cut something else to balance the budget, or you're gonna wind up raising people's taxes.
Now let's take a look on, Bill, since you mentioned that, take a look at the item 2018, which is the forfeit land committee sales.
Right.
That 30,000, and you didn't put any proposed budget for that. Is that right?
I did not, okay, like I said, after I spoke to Councilman Robinson, when I called, spoke to Elaine Sapp this afternoon, she said she remembers when those big line items were added to the budget was because of some sale order they got.
Okay.
Sold a lot of the
Yeah.
sale order they got.
Okay.
Sold a lot of the
Yeah.
forfeit land commission land out of that.
Did she indicate what's the average that you bring in?
She did not, but she said that when I spoke to her, she said it varies on someone approaches, but it was not at that level, and that's one reason I did not put a figure in there.
Okay.
But she said you can go, it's according to who approaches, and purchases land for a county.
So,
So I'm sure there's been some, within 2 years when I was chair, we had something sold. We should have some funds
from the
for
forfeit
the
land
lands
committee.
commission. There's got to be something sold, unless somebody, there's something done.
I can speak with her again tomorrow to see if she,
And maybe you might want to invite, before the treasurer used to come up here with us and work with us if there's questions. No, you're not going to be able to get all the information, Mr. Goodson, but there may be the persons that in head departments need to come to these meetings so we can ask them questions. Because some things we may not know, and he may not know, and he may not remember. Of course, they're going to tell him anything when he asks them a question. But if they're sitting in front of us, we can ask the question, we get some answers. But we're just spinning our wheels.
I think ideally, and I've been through this, and Carl has been through this, and Teresa, when we had the treasurer there with us, and we still didn't get all our numbers that we wanted.
It's a new day.
I know, but what I'm saying, Councilwoman Taylor, this budget, when I look at it, with all the cuts, at least we know the revenue versus the expenditures hits it right on the head. Now, what we're trying to do now is kind of go back, let's take a look at it and see if any of those cuts that we can kind of take a second look at. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So you're gonna maybe try to nail down some numbers on the corporate land committee, and we'll.
I'll speak with the corporate court and see if she can give me some kind of idea
Okay.
about what
The math
those two are.
Chairman, that's 134,000 difference between the actual proposed, the budget and the proposed.
All right.
Okay.
What we got next?
And let's go to page 3, administration. And that's 130,000.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's all basically from salaries.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna be hiring anybody else to fill those positions. It's come from salaries, and there has been people hired. So the positions you didn't fill, Mr. Goodson, you don't think you need them? Are those positions not gonna be filled anymore?
I made a comment at the workshop last week that I might hire one more person that help with HR and with some processing of accounts payable. But that's pretty much in line where we need to be. I don't think we're gonna go back up to $335,000 a year in the administration.
Let me ask you something, is that including council member salary in that administration?
But yes, ma'am.
So therefore, you're saying to me you want to hire one more person, and that include all our salaries?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, page 3, down the road maintenance, we increased that by about 6,000. Operation, we increased that by 7,000. Sanitation department, that's a cut of 25,000. And clerk of court, that's a cut of 67,000.
Okay, let me ask a question, what, you cut in the sanitation department, you said by how much, 30,000?
25.
25,000, what happened there,
The sanitation department,
yes, sir?
that's pretty much in line, because I think that's our convenience light workers. That's pretty much in line, that 82 with everybody at a convenience site. I can't account for the $105,000, but.
You were not able to see 105,000 as expenditures for the department. So that figure somehow for last year was not a good figure.
Correct. And again, that 105 is a figure that's been carried over.
Okay, over the
For
years.
7+ years.
Okay, all right. Clerk of court, I think we all saw that letter. I think she's gonna hire somebody again. So we might want to revisit that. Did you talk to her about that? She sent something out to council.
She did, and what she sent to me was that she wanted to take that salary and disperse the duties among her current staff, and then take that salary and disperse it among the staff that will be handling those duties. And that's something y'all determine whether to add that back in there or not. But what she told me was in that letter was that, and I got this after the workshop, was that she wanted to disperse the salary for that person amongst her current staff and the duties.
Okay. But for all practical purpose, that person wasn't making 67,000.
She was making $20,800.
Okay. So
You'd add that to the salaries.
we're not
If y'all-
we're not talking about 67,000 being dispersed among the other workers. We're talking about the 20,000 thereabout. Is that right?
Yeah, and just keep in mind, even though the salary's there, 9% of that's gonna be retirement, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the 5% is gonna be FICA, so it's gonna be more than 28, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you add your fringes, you're looking at about a third, so
Yeah,
you're
the
looking
salary
at,
of a person is 20,000.
you're looking at 30,000 versus. So I would recommend that we add at least 30,000 back to that.
What about the 2% you're talking about giving everybody a raise? Would that be in addition to that?
And I think, Bill has indicated with some of these cuts, we're able to do that. So we gotta be careful. We can't cut and give raise. You see?
But it doesn't look good that you're giving certain departments. I'm glad you're in here, Sheriff. You go give the sheriff, you allow we made promises to the sheriff department. We ain't giving them no more money. Now you're telling me you will give the other departments more money for working, and here the sheriff out here need more money. We can't put no more money in his budget.
That's not what he's saying, that's what Ms. Elaine Tabb said.
Okay, so what you gonna say? Y'all not agreeing to that just yet?
I'm not.
Okay, I'm just
I
curious.
mean, you're talking about
We
a
made a
very significant raise for
commitment, we
people
made
in
a
that office.
promise to the sheriff department. When they came before us, well, Tremaine did, she here tonight, we made a commitment to them, and we ain't done nothing yet today. That was back,
Well, that's back almost a year ago.
yeah, and we made a commitment to them, we didn't do nothing for them, so, go ahead.
I think commitment may be a little stronger. I think we said to
You give
the
them more
sheriff
money.
department that we will look at the budget and we will do our dangest to make certain that we can support them financially a little better.
And one thing I'm saying, Mr. Robinson, and I understand what you're saying, I'm saying, we want to be fair to everybody.
Sure.
I cannot sit here and tell you that I will go along with one department giving other people raises,
I agree,
when we can't give other people raises. We'll give them 2%. We're gonna be straight by the book,
I agree.
or don't do it at all. If that's $20,000 that could be spent, give it to the other employees too. Share it with everybody. You
And that's
can't.
the reason for trying to go through this
And
so we can know exactly what are the thoughts.
Because
Now,
maybe other departments can come up with money to give them. If the clerk of court can come up with money like that, maybe the sheriff department got if the clerk of court can come up with money like that, maybe the sheriff department got money that they can disperse a different way if y'all allowing people to do that.
Well,
We can think
I
about it.
think we can look at, when we get down to law enforcement, we can look at that, see where the cuts were made and see if we can restore anything. But going back to the treasurer, clerk of the court, she had a line item for salary. We've taken that away. She's come back, pushed back and said, I want to use that to up the salaries of the existing employees, that 20,000 or whatever.
And that's because she lost an employee. That's because, all right, is
That's
this,
because she's not going to rehire a replacement, or hire a replacement for the young lady that left. Now, if this council say, no, we're not going to do that, we're going to cut it, and then she's have to make do with what she has.
okay,
And if for some reason, we say, okay, you can use the 20,000, yeah, I do agree, it shines a bad light on the other departments who may not be able to come up with that. So either we're gonna go ahead and say to her that we're not gonna allow that to happen, and her budget is what it is, then I think we need to be on the same page.
okay.
I think we maybe need to, obviously we've lost the new census or the new numbers come out, we've lost 20% of our population. So therefore we're dealing with less revenue, if we could go through each department and maybe they could, if you're losing 20% of your population, it's a bad thing to say, but your services needs change also. So I think, obviously we don't want to get rid of EMT, sheriff and all this, but there may be some departments that we can get rid of some people, put that money into a pot and then disperse it back out to the employees that we truly need. Not that we don't need all employees, but at the end of the day, if you're losing people, you're gonna have to make some cuts somewhere.
I agree with you.
Make perfect sense. Okay, can I continue?
Can I get clarity on, or is council recommending putting that 20 back in, or keep it not? Because then you have to take 20 out somewhere. Or y'all requested I add that,
I think for the time being, we say
leave it out.
leave it out. The only problem I see right now is the total 67 cut.
Do I?
I mean, there's a $67,000 cut for that department.
Administrator, yes, that figure that you got budgeted for 22, that's gonna be the actual salaries that her remaining employees will
That's
receive.
92's actual salaries of who's in her office.
The one
Yeah,
eleven.
her, yes, sir, yes, sir.
So if you add the 30,000 back with the FICA and the retirement and the salary, so they were just over budgeted last year, basically.
Well.
That 164 was over.
I can't stress enough the left-hand column. That necessarily, yeah. That is what was budgeted last year because the budget had been passed. for the
But
last
it wasn't,
7 years.
164 wasn't a true number? That's what you're saying, Bill?
Do what now?
164 for salary was not a true number?
And that's what, no, sir, what I did on these salaries is I took who was currently in the department. And
Okay.
I don't know how the 124 got.
Even if you add the 20 plus the fringes, you still won't get up to 160?
Right.
Okay.
But that does cover currently who's in her office.
I think we need to give her a chance to at least explain that. If she needs to explain that further too, is why she won't do what she won't do.
And I think that's, yeah, and that's why I asked her to send that out.
Yeah.
Before it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask,
Yes, sir.
Administrator, does the new figure include the 2% raise?
No, none of this includes 2%. I'm sorry. The budget does on the back, the very back page.
So those salaries you have,
There's
The
a line.
current salaries are current. If you go to the very back page of the budget, the last line item says salary and fringe benefits, capital expense, 2% raise. So I've included it in the budget as a line item, but I've not allocated it to that.
To each salary.
Correct. Okay. Because I wanted council to approve that before I did that.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I move?
Absolutely.
Okay. Page 4, judge probate. It looks like you got a +2 here. Sheriff Department, it looks like we got a +9,000. And law enforcement, which I think is our jailers.
Wait, you talking about salaries?
Excuse me?
On page 4, you said, stop back a minute.
Yes.
The two,
Yes,
okay.
negative.
Probate judge, the judge of probate
That's a $2,000 proposed increase.
proposed, okay, did it say
Okay.
why?
Excuse me?
Did it say why it want to increase?
Well, if you look at the numbers, you can see what has happened. FICA has increased in salary.
That's exactly,
Yeah. And that's out of our control because the magistrate's salary pretty much is dictated by the legislature.
is that the judge of probate? Is the magistrate? That's not the magistrate.
Okay. Judge
That's not the
Probate.
magistrate.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
I'm saying, you do one, you do all.
the probate judge is also determined by.
By the legislature. So
But
that's-
who gives the
that's-
money? Okay, I'm just wanting to I didn't think you saw what I
Yeah.
saw.
Well, I saw the increase
Judge,
of
yeah.
2,000, and I
Okay.
thought it was the magistrate, but thanks for the clarification, because the probate, all your judges pretty much are mandated by the legislators. They got a base salary, and the chief magistrate has a supplemental, base plus a supplemental. And the probate falls under that same category, so I think that's why you're seeing the increase here.
So so it won't be coming out of ours, so you're saying it come from the State Department. We won't have to give them increase, it'll come from the State Department.
And I think that's gonna be our share.
That's exactly what I'm saying to you,
Yeah.
even though the State Department gives some.
But I've said for years, all these mandates, we ought to push back on, but we never do,
Okay.
okay? Is that right, Walter?
Right, I mean.
I mean,
the probate
mandates.
judge's salaries are set by county population. If you fall within a certain population, that's what the counties have to pay their probate judge.
And I've always said, push back on them.
Yeah.
What would happen if
It's a
we,
mandate. I mean, but-
what would happen? And I've never received a good answer. If we decided not to do it, I think your answer has been,
Well,
you can't do it.
you have court administration and the governor down here.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And Sheriff Department, we see a $9,000 increase,
Decrease,
overall budget.
but, please, let's.
I'm sorry,
You-
I looked at these figures, that's an 8. That's an 8, first I thought it was a 6.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, you seen.
I got my glasses on, help me out, Judge.
That's 192,000.
Okay, so. I see-
Decrease,
Yeah,
192.
okay, explain that one.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's chair, that's what you want me to do.
okay. Kind of, I explained it last week, we happy to
Yeah, please do
reiterate
that.
that. This 440, I feel like a broken record.
Well,
Has
I'm
been
sorry,
being
Bill.
carried over so many years. We're currently down to two school buildings in Allendale County. Back 7 years ago, we had more school buildings that had people in them, which means we had resource officers in them. We're down to 3 resource officers, so a large part of that, plus overtime, is what's reflected in the difference of that number. Because we used to have 2 schools in Fairfax, 2 in Allendale before they met at the high school. We're down to 2 school buildings, and we have 3 resource officers that we pay to go into the building. That is the major difference between.
But that money comes back to us. That money
Just on the
comes,
resource officers.
right, the school pay us back for
Right.
resource officers.
Right.
So that's money's returned back to us, so
But-
it's not like we
But
paid
I-
it.
We just don't have the same number of resource officers, but we don't have the same number of school buildings to put those resources.
Even at that, the school paid for the resource officer.
Yes, it doesn't, it's
It's
a
a wash.
washout. It's a
Right,
washout.
so why are we worried about if they wanna hire or whatever they wanna do with less people, less school, we getting the money back?
Well, the mandate, talking about
Oh,
mandate,
Lord.
the mandate now is that schools will have 2 resource officers. Not 1, 2.
I sure like to hear that from Dr. Gilmore.
Well, I think, I'm surprised she hadn't said anything.
Well, I sure
It
like
just-
it.
Just got passed. Walter, you remember that one? Just got passed. General Assembly just passed it. So it's gonna be 2 per school.
Per school, but how many that means? To be,
I mean, increased by 1.
okay, so we decreasing.
So that's something we need to at least budget for, even though it's gonna be a washout.
Did the sheriff ask for more for resource officers?
That's through the school system.
Yeah, that.
The school system reimburse us.
Well, I mean, I know that, but we still have to, I mean, it's a different line item. That's what I'm saying, I mean, has he made any indication that we need more resource officers? So it's kind of hard to plan for resource officers if you don't have an idea that you need more officers. I mean, we can sit here and say what the sheriff, sit here and say what the
But you
sheriff.
don't cut them just because you wanna cut them either.
Well, if you're not
If
spending
it's-
the
if it's
money,
a
why
wash.
not- if you're not spending the money, why
But
have
you
any
gotta
money?
give it to the, you got,
But
the
you're not
sheriff
giving
have
it.
asked for more deputies. They've asked for more workers. We don't have enough sheriff running the county.
I absolutely agree 100%. But if you got money from 21 budget and you're not spending it, I mean, if you're not spending it, why are you gonna put it in there?
Well, maybe we need to pull the
I mean,
sheriff.
the sheriff maybe needs to
'Cause he been
request
asking
more
for
money
workers.
more workers.
He was asking, you've asked us in the past.
Yeah, he's asked.
Yes, he's asked.
But
We
here
just-
again, when we look at what he has asked for, and we look at the overtime, you know, there was enough money there to go out and hire
Hire
a
some
couple
more people.
more officers, you know?
Yeah, because it looks like, I mean, we were budgeted 440 for salaries and we spent 352. If I'm reading that correct.
Yeah, And that's,
So the money was there.
But we didn't act on it.
Well, I mean, did we hire deputies?
We don't give him no okay to say he can do it, how you gonna do it?
The money's in the budget to hire them.
I understand, but if you're not letting them know the money's in the budget,
well, I think Tom or our sheriff has a hand in formulating this budget, does he not?
Yes, and every elected official, which includes the sheriff, hires their own staff, which will be included deputies.
Okay, all right. So we got 192,000 decrease in the sheriff budget. I think we may need to go back. And Matt, I do feel very strongly,
all this killing in this community?
my figure is 18.5% in 10 years of population loss, rounded off to 20%.
And I'm in no way in favor of cutting the sheriff's department, but I'm just making a point, when it comes down to numbers, if you put money in the budget and it's not being spent, then why just put a number in there to put a number in there? Because you're reducing somebody else's line item if they're not using it.
And Mr. Collins, to add to that, we need to pull the sheriff in. I mean,
I
we
absolutely
can't
agree.
answer. You know,
Well, I mean-
even departments,
I'm very new, but he hadn't requested anything since I've been here.
well, we know he was requested. But
Well,
we
I'm sure
didn't.
he'd love to have it, but, I don't know why.
And
it never
all those
happened on-
crimes are being committed in this community, we may need more protection.
I absolutely agree 100%.
Well, I think we heard from the sheriff, but I think what really kind of rang the bell was when we heard from the officers. They came
Exactly.
and expressed their concern, you know. And our take on that was we would take a look at the budget and see if we can do better. But what I'm seeing here,
It was in the budget,
the money was there
we just didn't do
to
nothing.
do better, but it wasn't being spent. But like Bill said, you know, for the last 6 or 7 years, we hadn't changed too many line items.
You didn't change it, but you didn't give the okay either.
Excuse me?
You hadn't changed anything, but you hadn't given it okay. They can't do it
No,
without our
no,
approval.
I know, but what I'm saying, in reference to Matt said, if the money was there and you're not spending it, I'm looking at a budget and it's not being spent, you know, naturally, that's gonna be where I look at for cuts.
Okay, now,
Ultimately, if you have a balanced budget and there's money here not being spent, you're actually taking away from another line item somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
You know, if they need the whole 440, then absolutely, they need it.
and I'm saying to you and Matt, Mr. Goodson and Mr. Collins, I'm saying, I understand what y'all saying,
No,
but y'all ain't hear me.
no, I
Mr.
didn't
Roberts didn't hear
understand.
me.
If they need more.
They needed it,
yeah.
but we wouldn't give it. You can't hold them accountable for when they came before us and we won't give them nothing.
And I think a lot of that was based on we not having the financial numbers.
Well,
that
now we
need.
have them, so you say, now we got them. We gonna cut them that kind of money or give it to them?
We're not really cutting them,
Huh?
we're not really cutting them
We hadn't, we're not gonna leave it as 440,000.
if they're not spending it, why would you?
Because we did, again, it's our fault, Mr. Conley. We did not give it to them. We would not give it to them.
All righty.
And lastly, I'm sorry.
Please.
Last with page 4 would be law enforcement center. That's a 52,000. Okay. And that's, looks like the retirement's been cut on that.
Looks like there's a salary, a little retirement cycle.
And the prisoner meal seemed like a big cut.
Why the big retirement, South Carolina Police Retirement Club, Mr. Goodson?
Because basically 9% of a law enforcement salary plus what the county matches around 15%. It's 9.5%. And those are accurate figures that I have on the proposed budget. I can't account for what's been being budgeted in and passed by this council over the years.
We're dealing with the actual number, that's what you're saying.
I can't stress that enough.
Okay.
I'm not pulling numbers out of the.
And one other question, prisoner meals, it dropped, about $12,000.
They did, and I confirmed that with our finance manager, and that number is correct in what we're billing.
Is that with the hospital? Because I know
It is.
the hospital prepared meals and I
Yeah,
wanna make
they
sure
do.
they don't miss, because they're getting good
No,
meals.
ma'am, I made sure that these numbers, and again, I tried to crunch where we could to make sure these numbers were right,
Okay.
so we didn't have to so council didn't have to, so that council could give a raise to every employee and not give an increase to taxpayers.
Okay. Right, can I continue?
Absolutely.
Okay. Page 5. Magistrate office, that's a $24,000 cut. And
It looks like what salary?
salary,
Which
and
one?
we lost a long-term employee.
But I kept that.
You kept that salary, okay.
Is there a reason why you kept that salary? Can't we do it this one, or we gotta have two?
I put it in there because you had to. I don't know if it requires to, I don't know what the statute.
Well, it used to be that Allendale's population required 1.5 salaries. One to be the chief magistrate, half, and then they would rotate.
And I met with Judge, excuse me, Vice Chairman Donley, Chairman Gooding, Councilman Gooding is correct. I had a meeting with Judge Branch today talking about this. And he said that you're right, it was 1.5, but he said by the time you, so that's why I guess you had 2 is by the time you paid.
Yeah, council made that decision to just fund it
And
to.
that's what he was explaining to me today, because I asked the same thing, could you go out just one? You know, but he'd be working, you know, all the time and not having a backup, I guess.
But I thought that they said that the person they hired, they dropped the salary, it's not gonna be as high as it was before, that's why the other person didn't take the position. So,
And yes, ma'am.
if that's the case, is that the reason why $18,000 is dropped on us? Because they're not starting that person out with the same salary, they were starting the other
But no,
judges?
I'd asked Judge Branch what that was, and that's why I came up with this amount. You see.
Because I know he don't make that much, I mean, no, not no 170,000.
But this includes his staff and the office.
Right,
too.
but it's still, the difference is still more, less than what the other one was making. You see what I'm saying?
We don't have breakdown.
No,
I
but,
think we do somewhere, but we don't have it here as how the magistrate salaries are broken down. So, I don't know.
well,
Your
anything,
question,
that I can answer one of my questions to you, that I was making, 50,000 or more is on the website. Anybody make $50,000 or more is on the website.
sure.
So I'm saying the last judge made over $50,000, and we only cut it, as you can see. Right here. So that's still the $50,000, and he made more than 50, but it's still in there. So you, and I get what you're saying, but I'm just only saying,
Yeah.
because the offer that was made wasn't even near 50.
Well, I hadn't been privileged
And
to what offer was made to, in trying to acquire a new magistrate.
Well, no, I'm only saying that because if the salary is not, what I'm saying to you is that if the salary, let's just say, if you're not gonna pay the next salary, what the other salary the person was making that left, 50 or more, then why is it so high still? You get what I'm saying? That could be a cut. Because if you ain't gonna pay them 50 or more, that, I'm not going into 50, but it's on the website.
Okay.
They was making over $50,000. So if, hypothetical, if they was making 60,000 and you still got that salary as high, how you justify one man in the staff, same people, and you still keeping it that high in that department?
Well, that number is reflected in the second magistrate though.
Yeah.
No, but listen, they're not gonna pay the second magistrate what they paid the
Well, the
magistrate
budget
just
did
now.
decrease by $16,000, the salary budget from last year
Increased?
to this year, decreased.
Okay, but that's still, it still doesn't add up to,
So, I mean,
No,
so you know
What I'm-
exactly what they make? I mean.
yeah, it's on the
just asking.
website, it's on the website.
Okay, but you don't know what the new guy's gonna make, do you?
No,
Well, what I,
I mean, I don't know how that, all that works.
we
Well-
don't know that.
we don't know, but we know what was offered. Well, I do know what was offered to the last one, it wasn't nearly that, salary. It wasn't enough to put on the website.
I wasn't, and I don't think anybody coming in, if the person leaving is at 50 plus, and you bring somebody in with no experience.
Maybe you're missing what I'm saying.
No,
I'm
I
saying
follow
regardless
the
of what the guideline, what they bring them in here, some of them didn't have no experience when they came the first time.
I follow.
And they're still making it.
But they didn't
It's
start
not up to
out,
us,
they didn't
though.
start out at the top level. That's what I'm saying.
But it's not up
And
to-
if you take the $16,000 cut in salary, in this case, then my deduction would be, well, that person would come in, if that 16 came from the 50, would come in at the low 30 or mid 30s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, Chief Branch agreed this is what he needs for his,
I'm
him,
with him again
his
today,
staff.
confirm
and
that.
All right,
Go ahead.
okay. Tax collector -5, coroner -3, tax assessor -30, or 29, put it that way. And that's based on salary, Bill?
And I did include a replacement full-time for Harvey in that number.
Okay, all right.
Isn't he doing something?
And I'm just saying when we hire a full-time auditor to replace, excuse me, a tax, when we replace, he's working part-time on the contract, that a salary number here is, would be considered a full-time person.
Okay. And lastly, on page 5, auditor $500 decrease. Voter registration, 1,000 decrease. Poll workers, like no change here. Airport, -15,000. And I imagine that's due to fuel, Bill? What do you-
No, sir, what I do have to do there, and I did mention this at the budget, at the budget workshop, is add when Betty left, Deborah was appointed the airport manager. She was only working several days a week. And I need to go back and add in there the hours a part-time person for several days a week to help Deborah at the airport. Right now, we got a floater that goes out and
Okay,
helps.
okay. And so that $15,000 cut is, will go back up? Okay, all right. So we can say this remained the same then.
Right.
And Veterans Affairs, -14.
18,500 is what Morgan gets paid. Don't shoot me at the
Did we ever have a part-time, I mean, why all the discrepancies in salary? I mean, has he had a part-time person in the past, or?
I can't, I don't.
I think we did,
Did you?
at one time, paid some administrative salary to someone that worked in that office.
Okay.
Yeah. And it looks like on the end there, just, except for the last one, treasurer, page 6, $43,000 decrease. And looks like that came almost entirely from salary.
There's only one in the, one person instead of two in the treasurer's office. And one thing about the elected officials that I found, several, and our current treasurer doing this, but not every, gets their check directly from the state instead of the county paying it and it comes through. The reason that's a low too is because the current treasurer gets her state check through there, and this is just the difference. If that makes any sense, like Crystal in the auditor's office, she gets her state check through the state.
So you
They
said
give us supplement.
supplement,
The
so,
county only pays a portion of their salary.
Right.
The state gives a supplement to the auditor and the treasurer, which comes from the state.
Absolutely. Same thing with,
so the $56,000, you're saying the
That-
treasurer,
Basically, that covers the current treasurer and that one person in the office there.
and plus you get
Yeah, the county portion, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you're not counting that supplement that we get, that's the county's portion of the treasurer and her
Correct.
part-time, okay?
and we have no idea what that supplement is. I think it's, the bigger the county, the more the supplement is, so.
I'm sure, yeah.
I'm sure the state has a formula they use. What you think, Paul?
Probably based on population.
Yeah. Okay. Down to recreation. Page 7, $31,000 cut. And that's salary.
And that salary is basically covers the 2 full-time and part-time person, that's what they're making.
Okay. So we
What about
will,
part-time person?
This 86.5 covers the 2 full-time and part-time person.
so we actually was over budgeting that, just like we were in the sheriff department. County attorney, -6. And that's the cutting outside the legal fee.
And somebody's office.
Outside legal fees, that's whenever you get somebody to help you on
Well,
an
that's
issue, or
where
what is that
we
exactly?
have, you know, I'm a general practitioner, and, you know, the law has gotten where now we're more, you know, lawyers that specialize. It's just like, for example, if you have a heart attack, you don't want your regular physician to take care of you, you want a cardiologist. But that's what it is we have to hire an attorney who has special abilities that I can't handle,
Okay.
or if I have a conflict. Now, one thing that you should know, we do have insurance to cover a lot of what would be our outside attorneys. And we have insurance that covers all tort cases, which when people are injured and they sue, that's not outside. But we also have insurance to cover when we have to hire just an outside attorney that's not a tort case. And what we have to do in that is actually, we pay them, but we get reimbursed from the insurance. And I don't think over the years that reimbursement has been being reflected in, you know, what was coming out as outside attorney.
We had,
So we had some revenues coming in that didn't reflect the
You
budget.
know, the money came back, but it wasn't put back into the budget, and that's why these outside attorney's fees have been so high some of these years.
So most of that money we have recovered from insurance.
Right.
Okay.
And fortunately now, we don't have many law cases that are pending, so
that's a good thing.
we're in good shape with the 5,000.
Good.
Okay. Water and sewer, -22.
Would you like me to explain that one, Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Call in about you.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Vice
I'm
Chair
sorry.
Conley, you mind me answering
Yeah,
that?
please do.
I'm sorry about that title. And I explained this last week in the workshop, but this is basically who we contract with. He used to work at the town of Allendale from Rodney Stanley. Alan Stanley. Basically, that's what we pay him to handle our water and sewer. I can't account for where the 25 is being budgeted in, but he handles that part of, we contract with him to handle that. So that is a true figure, right?
Yeah, again, 2 numbers.
2 numbers. And we pay him a 1099, that's why you don't see retirement or like the taxes come out of that.
Okay. And support of external agency. Page 7, 165,000 cut.
Why such a drastic cut? in agencies?
Well, I know, well, I don't want to speak for Administrator Goodson, but all the agencies that we didn't give anything to were agencies that did not request money, so we did not put them back in the budget. And then there was obviously some cuts need to be made. Denmark Tech, we cut from 30 to 5,000. Looking at our neighboring counties, that seems to be in line with what Marl's doing, and they're probably getting the similar services or maybe even a little more. The Low Country RTA, that was something based off of surrounding counties, Hampton County, according to their budgets, that's what they've been given for the last couple of years.
They've been sogging it to us.
Salkehatchie, just needed to make some cuts. Dropped it from 40 to 30. Regional library dropped a little bit, or 20,000. The only thing we did not decrease was the Fairfax Library, the COG, and Association of Counties that were all nice dues, so you can't really drop that, I guess. And then the Salkehatchie Boulevard lights, we didn't change. Do you have any input on that, Councilman?
No.
Was that just something we agreed to when they put the lights up, that we agreed to
Yeah.
pay for?
Yeah.
Was that for the actual lights, or was that actually a maintenance fee or electrical fee, or?
Town of Allendale also contributes.
That was one thing, we figured it was probably some type of gentleman's agreement or contract, so we didn't want to really mess with that. Anything else you'd like to add to that, Administrator Gibson?
We'll just add that after our workshop, I got a request from the regional library that we did decrease back to, they emailed me a request for the $90,700. This is after our workshop last week. I received that request. And that is the only request I received after we received a request for Denmark Tech, Salk, the COG, and the Fairfax Library.
What was the reason for the 80% cut for Denmark Tech?
That was based off of, honestly, me, I looked in Barnwell County, what they were donating. I've heard a lot about the $30,000 deal, and I actually looked into Bamberg, and up until 2 years ago, Bamberg was giving them $1,800 a year. And that's their host county. I thought that was kind of a slap in our face that Bamberg was giving $1,800, which they did add a meal to their budget. So I think last year they gave them like $27,000. So I looked at Barnwell, they have similar services. I think maybe even a little more services, and Barnwell gives them $5,000 according to our last two budgets. So I thought it was kind of in line for services received, and that's what the Finance Committee recommended, and ultimately that's what the council at that workshop agreed on. But if y'all have other opinions,
We do support their operation here, don't we, at the library? We pay their bills or whatever.
As far as the
Utilities,
yes,
phone.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I want
Teresa,
to recommend that we be consistent. What's good for one school is good for another. You need to be consistent. I don't see how we can go to surrounding areas and see what people are doing. We're talking about serving our people. We're not talking about just not doing nothing. So I feel what we need to do is to be consistent. That's all I'm gonna say. We need to be
I
consistent.
think that's being consistent with what other surrounding people
No,
are doing.
no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, for any schools, you need to be consistent.
And we thought about that, that's why we dropped Salkehatchie. I mean, that's a host, that's a host county, they bring a lot to the county. I'm not saying Denmark Tech don't bring a lot to the county, they do. But, that was my opinion. And Rick, being on finance chairman, he agreed, administrator put it in the budget, that's what we voted on. If y'all think differently, then we can certainly discuss it more.
Well, I think with the Denmark Tech versus USC Salk, they both provide a service, for the county. And I think personally, it's a hell of a cut when you cut them 80%. I would certainly look at cutting half versus 80%, because we cut Salk, cut them by maybe 25%.
25%.
Yeah. So
which they bring.
I know.
Well, they've got
They
a heck of a physical facilities
I
here,
know.
20 times
Look
what
at,
been
look
more
at
there.
Bamberg, look at their host
20
county.
times the students also.
I know.
2 years
I
ago,
know.
Bamberg was
I know.
giving them $1,800.
Bamberg, Barnwell gets a whole lot more out of Denmark Tech than we do, and they don't give them but 5.
Well, I think, I don't disagree with what you said. I just think for a one-time slash of 80%, it's kind of harsh. I don't say cut it, but I do say that's a very dramatic cut,
I was gonna see that.
you know? So, you know, I would say, if you're gonna do it, let's slash it in half, leave it alone. Come back next year. In fact, I propose we take all external agency and cut them by 20% each year until we get down to 0. You know?
Yeah, we gotta take care of our own people. Well, we
You know,
gotta take care of our own people, for
and-
sure.
and,
We're losing money.
Yeah. So, you know, that would be my take on it. Let's do half.
So are you making that in the form of a motion?
Well, I would say, yeah, I would say go from 30 to 15,000, you know, with Denmark Tech, add 10 more thousand in there. And the rest of them I can live with, you know.
For a second? No second? Guess it fails to move forward then.
Okay.
Anything else?
And you say the other one's zeros or did not make requests?
According to Administrator Goodson, yes.
Okay.
Is that right?
No, he
Administrator Goodson?
he just said that some of the people made requests. Are we increasing the ones?
That was regional library requested.
Regional library,
Yeah.
You said you go ahead, you said some more earlier.
Denmark Tech, Salt, DeKalb, and Fairfax Library. Which
Those
are all-
are, those are the external agency
Yeah,
that
yes, sir.
made requests?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why the RTA? We sliced them pretty hard.
Again, that was based on surrounding counties, what they were given for the same services.
We got a lot of people catch that LRT bus to go to work
I
now.
don't know, we got about 35 to 45 people,
You can't,
and
Well, I agree, I mean, I think it's very, very much needed, but.
I don't think we should compare when it comes to service that what we're doing for our people versus what we're doing for Barnwood, doing for their people, because it's two different counties, two different entities. They may not have what we have. We can't sell our people short. I disagree with cutting these services for the people that have to ride that bus back and forth to Hilton Head every day. They need service. And if you cut them that much, that bus ain't coming this way.
I think what it's gonna mean, based on my understanding, they actually contribute to ride
Yeah.
themselves, the workers do.
They pay for the ride, yeah.
And they
These
also get
people
state
make it a
funding,
hand
right?
over fist.
Don't they get some state funding also?
There's, RTA gets some funding, the merchant in Hilton Head pay a supplemental fee to RTA.
You know, my question is, that, you know, and I'm just one person, you know, but this is a donation more of than a fee. Is that correct?
Well,
Looks like
I think we were asked years ago to supplement what it costs RTA to transport people.
How many did you say used the bus here?
I think it's 35 to 45 people.
Okay, you divide 35 into $62,000, you could pretty well get them a taxi cab.
Not every day,
I'm being facetious.
I know. And so I think it's,
No.
No, the only reason I looked at Hampton County as I was coming back from, Hardyville area, and saw the bus, and I was like, hey, you know, I wonder what they pay. And, you know, I'm trying to look out for Allendale County taxpayers.
I know.
And I definitely don't think that, you know, I know that the RTA transportation is very much needed, a lot of people depend on it, and we don't need to jeopardize that. But at the same time, if this is a donation and not a fee, then we need to look after the taxpayers of this county. And if it needs to be a fee, they need to structure it where it is a fee. They need to say, okay, for 35 people, this is what you pay, and I don't think that's what we're getting.
well, I think the whole premise has always been, hey guys, it takes X number of dollars to support transferring employees back and forth. It costs us X number of dollars to do that. And we asking, because they came back about 5 years ago, Walter, maybe, and wanted to increase, and we pushed back on that because of the budget. And I think we paying now 60-something thousand thereabout. But it does allow them to keep the cost down for the people who are traveling to make a living. And so we started out, and I think we do have a representative that serves on the RTA from Allendale County. And we may want to get that person in to kind of, help us make a determination.
I found out it was Louise Pinckney, and I asked them we need to nominate somebody when I was trying to communicate about that.
So we don't have a representative now?
Well, the one they had on record was Louise Pinckney.
Well, what we can do also, that the jobs come available around here, instead of hiring people out of county, hire people in this county. We steady hiring people out of county. So if we want to stop LRTA, that would be a good start. When jobs come available, you got people driving from Columbia to here, working, and not giving the people the opportunity in this community to work. So
I agree.
why we don't hire our own people around here then? Give them an opportunity, then you can cut all that stuff out. But we're not being consistent and being fair. That's jobs, right? Like you said, you got jobs, but you ain't giving the opportunity to people that live here. So they got to go somewhere to feed their family.
It's not me giving them opportunity.
Well, I mean, you don't get hired, you don't get hired either. So
exactly right.
I'm just saying, the
I've been
jobs
here for- I've been here for
available,
7 months, so
we
don't-
need to make sure they're local people versus people out of the county. Not go out of the
Looking for people so bad, they're taking people that don't work out in 2 or 3 weeks. And I know they're doing their level best. They're on radio all the time. All they need is for you to come talk to them. And 9 times out of 10, if you can do a little local test that they give you, you got your job.
Where is that?
You'd be surprised how many people don't go and apply for these jobs.
Well, these people not gonna quit the job they got already. I'm just saying now because you're saying you're quitting services.
Now's a good time
Yeah,
to
I'm
push it.
saying, well, we got jobs available. Those 35 people we sending to Hilton Head, give them an opportunity to get a job here.
Well, the gentleman out there in the dog food company, he made it a point to go and talk to the people getting off the RTA buses a year ago. And he asked every one of them that was getting off those buses if there was a job, if he offered them a job in Allendale County, would they come to work for him? And all of them said, yeah. But as soon as he starts up full production, you're gonna see a lot of them get a job.
Well, then maybe that's when we cut. But until then, we got to help them find jobs.
I agree.
I would say we ought to at least take that back up to at least 35,000.
Making that a formal motion?
That's a motion.
Second? That was 35?
So that's Low Country RTA back up to what?
Well, his motion is to bring it back up to 35. Is there a second on that?
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right, there's a motion and a second to increase RTA to 35,000 from a current 25,500. Is there any more discussion?
Just like to say that $7,500 increase.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Nays have the same right? So that, so go.
All right. That seemed to be, well, we down here to E911. And Bill, the only question I have on that, and there's a big salary decrease too. And we're looking at $135,000 decrease.
And this is the current staff, including overtime.
So these numbers are justified, that's what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
But you're overworking people down there. They need to hire somebody. We've been asked that too, so they can hire somebody. The girl's being Miss Jody's being overworked down there. She's working a lot. She needs more staff.
That job's been advertised for, I know a few months, haven't it? Have you got any?
applications I've gotten in, I've taken down to her and had her review.
So people just aren't applying for the jobs, is that?
Everything we get.
They're applying.
Yeah.
They're applying, but they're not getting hired. You said everything you get, you take down to two of them things.
What I do is I have the head of the department, when I get applications, and let them review them, so they know what they're looking for, qualifications, and I've taken some applications down there, and she has a reason, I know that she doesn't want them. So, I mean, there's not a lot coming in, but, you know,
Well, I think it's safe to say that we obviously need E911 if we get some people that qualify for the job and Jody needs to hire. I think we could probably come back and address it and make an amendment to this budget. Could we not?
yeah. Yes, sir.
So I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, if we need them, we need them, for sure.
Okay, emergency services. It's $121,000 decrease. And looks like salary's taking a big cut on that one too.
Well, I guess you lost a worker, you know, when Gidget died.
No, that's emergency
Oh, that's the,
medical service.
that's,
EMS.
when John Lawson left.
And I did leave, we do have one worker that had to take a leave of absence. I left him in there.
So the 196 was not a good number, Bill?
Yeah, the 124 is correct. We got one person that's had to go out for family.
But you're still employed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right.
In case something happens where
I know Liz sent us all an email, you know, and we're definitely not here to cut EMS. We respect everything they do in the sheriff's department, and if they need people, then we're certainly willing to listen and go back and make amendments if.
I think that's the last service I would want to cut.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But, you know, if we're working on true numbers, I think, you know, it's probably the avenue we take. We just don't put money in if we're not using it. But
No.
if we do need it, then maybe it's something we can come back at a later time and address and see what we can make work.
Emergency preparedness, that's a $9,000 decrease. And you may not be aware, that agency doesn't cost us 1 cent. It's all funded by an external agency, DOE, Southern Company, Plant Bogle. So whatever they spend is reimbursed, so.
and I basically combined the risk management with emergency prep bill. That's why there's no thing. I kind of allocated the money up there at the top with them because basically they both they have both departments.
Yeah, and that's a vital part of what we do. As I told the guys in Aiken, if SRS money funded and based on the geography of where we're located, that nuclear waste is released, it won't go uphill. It's gonna come downhill. And it's gonna come directly towards us. So if there's anything we can do with some of that money is beef up emergency preparedness. Because one day, hopefully, it won't, but one day, if something get released, either from Plant Bogle or from SRS, you know, it's gonna run downstream,
I agree.
you know. And I'm afraid of our aquifer being contaminated, where we're gonna have to haul in water to everybody who lives here, so. Just keep that in mind. Fire department, that's 140,000. We're dealing with new numbers and actual numbers.
Well, now, may I explain?
Yes.
First of all, Frank and I got together and he wanted to combine just budget-wise, just have one department to run the fire department out of. And 252 makes up the full-time firefighters. What we got back last year was right at 170,000 of that. Now, you do know that grant, we lose a portion every year, but that covers basically, I'll go ahead and make note, weekend salaries I did away with because we do have 5 full-time firefighters, but that's where that 252 comes in along with the remainder of those. items on there. So you'll see the Fairfax Fire Department, the Ulmer, Martin, and Appleton, which had rarely, you know, before we had full-time firefighters, we had volunteers. They got paid $10 to go to each fire. One thing I did include in the salaries was an estimate of, I had asked to go through what we paid the volunteer firefighters every quarter we paid them. And I had her look to see what the average was for an annual, what we paid the volunteers. So that includes the volunteers and the full-time firefighters. So we do run that payroll.
And that's something we certainly gonna have to prepare for. I think we got, what, 3 more years?
I think it was a 5-year grant, we're in year 2. Yes.
So we increased that by 252,000.
But we got 170
Yeah.
that back last year.
But that number's skewed too, because once you add in Fairfax, Ulmer, Martin, Appleton, it's not gonna really reflect that great of an increase, correct? Because you're not adding, you know, those aren't reflected in the 2001 budget for the Allendale Fire Department, so it's not quite as big as it seems.
Right.
Even though I'd love to, you know, you want to say it would be, but
Yeah.
once you add those other departments in, it's not gonna be that great.
Okay. Building and zoning,
That is basically, kind of speaks for itself, I guess, but
That's one person's salary?
yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
We don't have the contract out for the,
The,
inspection?
it's professional services, isn't it?
Yep.
Also, therefore the salary is totally, okay, that is not including the top salary. Okay, that's what I want to hear.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So 15,000 is the actual inspector? Or the code 15,000 was professional services?
That's
who's actually doing the
contract
inspections?
out, yes, sir.
And that money actually come back.
From where we charge.
Yeah.
And we'll start capturing that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, we got permit fees and inspection fees and such.
Okay.
The only dip in that, I think, well, yeah, that's right, that's right.
Okay. And capital expense,
Help me understand what that is.
Me too.
That's basically, from my understanding, that is money that is for if one of the departments has to purchase a big ticket line item and or if they need money moved, if they get close to the end of their budget, council can vote to move that money over to that department.
In other words, this is reserve money.
Basically, yes. Yes, sir.
So why would we put that kind of money in reserve instead of putting it in capital reserve and let it sit there? Because that's what you're pulling,
I think at the end of the day, end of the year, you just move that money over to capital reserve.
well, I would hope so, because we're not putting back in
Yeah.
capital reserve.
Yeah.
We don't, like you said, if you ain't spending it, you don't need it.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
You
But
contradict
I
what
think
you're
it's a
saying.
good way to show
No, if you
it.
don't spend it, you don't spend it.
No, but if you leave it out there and say somebody can use it for something, they're gonna come out and then they're gonna wanna use it. So why not put it in capital reserve and reserve it?
Well, this is, just start this year, did it? This has been on last budgets?
Yeah, yes, sir.
But see, but see that, again, what I asked for, I didn't get. I can't tell you what kind of money, we had plenty, we had $1 million.
If you act, I mean, you act like all this is new and this has been going on forever, so.
Who has access to
No,
this?
it's new to you, but not to me, but that's what I'm trying to tell
No,
you.
it is new to me for
Yeah.
sure.
Who
But this
has-
has been going on for a long time. so
Right.
it's not
Who
new.
has access to these capital expenses?
No, council has to vote to move in,
Yeah.
to utilize any of that.
It has to be approved by the council before
Oh, yeah.
it's withdrawn.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah, it's not a given, they gotta come ask for it, or
Exactly.
we have some kind of emergency.
And we act on
Yeah,
it. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of like, for an example, a month ago, the county well motor went down over the weekend. It cost $80,000 just for the motor part on the county well. That includes the installation part of that. But as an example of an emergency situation where you would have to dip into that.
in my wish list, the council, and to hopefully to our legislator is for new equipment. So, because I know we need it. A new ambulance, we need it.
And new sheriff's department cars, that'd be a good item for that.
Yeah.
Ambulance, fire trucks.
I think I had a ladder truck. We in dire need of a ladder truck in this county. Okay, that's a 205 increase, which certainly would be a good reserve.
Yes.
Animal shelter. Not a problem.
No, that's a much needed service.
Well, that's,
That 2,500, 25,000.
25,000.
Wow.
If you don't do it, somebody, that SPCA people gonna take you to court shortly. That thing's a mess out there.
and down to the salary and fringes, and that's where we got that 2% increase. So,
And what else including that 7,500, 7,500?
75,000.
For 75,000, what all that includes the capital expenses, 2% raise.
That's where I figured it was
benefits.
2% raise for the county.
We have anywhere a line item that we're giving out bonuses to students, I mean, for the county, for employees for Christmas?
No, because I don't,
That used to be a line item for employees.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere, I saw that, but I don't know where. Maybe not in this budget, but somewhere.
so we add that in.
I
we looked at that.
yeah, I know,
Yeah, we need to add that in. And I think, once you do it, you're looking at 70,000 increase.
but it's usually the same thing across the board except for part.
Yeah. I'm thinking it costs us about 50,000 for that, for the bonuses.
Right.
So,
How are we, the 2% pay raise? Is that for every employee of the county? Is that including elected officials? Is that who is that? Is that including you? Is it including us? Is it including them?
That's including.
normally,
employees.
Just
it
regular-
included
Yeah,
employees, not elected,
No.
not elected officials.
Okay. That's what I was hoping, but.
yeah, that's correct.
We normally deal with elected officials, you know, a little different, include that.
Oh,
And Walter, I think that's something you can't do it in election year, can you? You can't raise salary in election year, can you?
I mean, you can raise it, but it don't affect till after.
After the election.
All right, I think that's it, right?
I think.
What's the next step?
Matt, if I'm correct, with the increase of 7,500 to RTA and adding the bonuses in, which I would say 50,000,
Right.
we're looking at a 60,000 increase.
Did we increase something else or not? Is that it? Is that what
We
said?
actually increased Denmark Tech and that didn't pass, and on the other motion
It will.
was
Okay.
for RTA, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
RTA and then the Christmas bonuses. And what I'll do,
So we need to come up with 57,500?
I would just run it off to 60, because
Well,
I
yeah.
really don't know the exact number on the,
Well, I guess you can get the employee number and we can do the math on it, I guess.
well, you can take the weekly, or bi-weekly set. Well, we do it just 1 week.
you do it the week before Thanksgiving, and it's one set fee, or one set amount for every full-time employee, and then y'all have a separate lower amount for part-time employees.
Okay.
So it's not it's not a fluctuation of people's salaries, say, across the board for every full-time, and then across the board for every.
Mr. Chairman, what's our next move?
It's on 1 week.
So, I mean, what do we do here? Do we pass the second reading
I
with the
think we need to
amendments?
go ahead and pass it.
With the amendments that we discussed?
Yes.
Is that right? All right, is there a motion to accept the second reading of the 2000,
So move.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Your name,
Nay?
Make a motion with adjourn, sir.
Safe?
When we gonna have this thing completed?
Well, we got 7 days.
We gotta get our money freed up there in Columbia.
We got into public comments time you came in. Do you want to speak? Okay. All right.
Walter, with 7 days, between the second and third?
I think y'all plan to do it at the,
At the count, 7 days, next Thursday, correct if I'm wrong, Vice Chair, Conley.
We can do it.
We can do it during the third, we can hold a public
Fine.
hearing from 5:30 to 6, and the
$4,000.
council meeting.
I got one right there, about motion.
All right, so adjourn.
Oh, yeah.